Morning and welcome to the trade setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. I'm Niraj Shah, and it promises to be a decent day of trade. At least the cues are stacked up in favor of people who are invested currently or are bullish on the long side. Now, quickly, first, what the handover was for our markets. Remember, is the whole conversation is around um, vaccine have or some bit of positive news around a vaccine being found. I must tell you though that when you slept off yesterday at about 11:30, 12, it didn't seem like that the US markets were quite reacting to that positive piece of news because it was Nasdaq which went up quite meaningfully in early trade in the Dow and in the mid trade in the Dow and the S&P and the Nasdaq in the US markets. Frankly, if you look at what the close was, it was essentially led by Nasdaq because Amazon led the way. Really, look at that surge that we saw in a single day in the stock price of Amazon, and that led Nasdaq higher. I mean, Jeff Bezos has added meaningfully to his single day fortunes, but that notwithstanding, it's just crazy what the moves that happened in some of the tech names in trade yesterday. Stocks like Twilio, for example, were up about 10%, and a bunch of others. So Nasdaq doing really well for itself, and the handover not being all that bad for the US markets because eventually even the Dow and the S&P did reasonably okay. Now that coupled with this news around the vaccine development, is it aiding the Asian screen? That's the key question, right? So most of the markets in Asia that I saw this morning were trading really well for themselves, about 0.5%, quarter of a percent, 1%, 1.5%. Look at that. I mean, HSI is up about 1.5%, 1.8% really. Kospi is trading with gains. ASX was green. Straits Times was in the green. So you have a positive start for sure. And frankly, a lot of you would have gotten these messages about the ADRs doing so well. The HDFC Bank ADR being up 7-8% in overnight trade last night. I tweeted about it as well last night. Reliance GDR was up about 4 or 5%. So the ADRs were rock solid, arguably maybe because of the dollar index correcting or this whole feeling about how emerging markets will now get a bit of a boost. And all of that leading to the SGX Nifty too. I haven't checked the last price, but I didn't need to check because frankly, the SGX Nifty would point towards green on the screen. So the setup is looking very, very positive. Now keep this in mind. What does all of this mean for the trade setup? Because India was a ranked outperformer yesterday as well, Frank. You look at any index except for the US markets, India was a ranked outperformer. And I think what India needs today is banks to contribute to continue the run. And I would dare say that that is likely to happen in the session today. You will see the bank Nifty contributing meaningfully the way it did yesterday, and that should only augur well. I think Axis and Bajaj Finance results may well determine the BFSI mood going ahead as well. But even if there is some chinks in the armor, just the momentum around banks is just so rock solid in the catch-up play. And I would reckon that you probably in for a good run in the session today as well. I might have to bite my tongue during the close of day today, but I don't think I will need to. But never say never, of course. And it's a litmus test for the insurance sector today, as all three life insurers, pure play life insurers, plus Bajaj Finserv declare their numbers today. So you'll actually have a sense of how the quarter was for insurance, right? Everybody and their aunt has said that insurance companies have done well, despite the fact that they've not been able to go out and meet people. ICICI Lombard numbers were good. I think today life insurance will actually tell us how the quarter was, and their commentaries could well determine what could happen to these players going in. It's a large, sizable trading part of a lot of people's portfolio. So do watch out for the insurance names as well. But yeah, the key results today, as I said, Axis, Bajaj Finance, HUL comes out with numbers. So from the index, I'll watch out for all of these. HDFC Life will be a part of the index soon. But yeah, the insurance names, HDFC Life, ICICI Pru Life, SBI Life, and Bajaj Finserv come out with numbers. So all of the day, all of these should be in focus. But just a bunch of stocks that should be in focus today. And the stock of the day, I mean, I don't need to tell you really, has Majesco. Just watch out for this one. The US arm of Majesco has signed a definitive agreement to be acquired by Thoma Bravo. The transaction values the US arm at about $594 million. Now, Majesco will operate as a privately held company post transaction, and all Majesco shareholders of record in the US will receive about $13.1 in cash for each share of Majesco. Now, you would ask me, what would this mean for Majesco, the listed arm? I'm quoting, viewers, I'm quoting some excerpts from a Phillip Capital report that came out today. Now they are saying, I mean, obviously the calculation is that the Indian entity, which is Majesco Limited, it holds about 74% stake in Majesco US, and therefore will receive about $421 million in cash for its holding. That's about 198% premium. Yes, 198% premium to the closing market cap or the current market cap of Majesco Limited, which is about 10.6 billion. And now, keep in mind, viewers, you would ask, what does this mean? So the promoters have announced the intent to distribute. I'm just quoting the Phillip Capital report. The promoters have announced their intent to distribute the entire proceeds, post taxes and other costs, to the shareholders in the form of buyback or dividend. Now, if it depends on whether you take the promoters at face value and believe that all of this money would come back or no. I would presume that the existing and the prospective shareholders of Majesco would believe that that would be the case. And I wouldn't be surprised if Majesco, uh, it turns out well to be the stock of the day. It was on a circuit yesterday. I won't be surprised if that's the case today as well. So do watch out for this one. Others, I think ACC numbers would be heartening for the cement pack. What did they do? I think the operational numbers were better than estimates, even though the top line was lower. Mind you, that is not a surprise. Everybody knew that the offtake would be lower in the COVID quarter. So that's not the surprise. What is a surprise is that the operational numbers are much better than estimates. There's a higher price growth and lower discounts, which led to better than expected operational numbers. The other costs also declined quite sharply, about 200 crores on a QOQ basis. So all of this would make me believe that the markets will take these numbers positively. And I would presume that the markets will take these numbers positively, the entire cement pack at large, particularly for companies exposed to the western and the southern region, because ACC operates in those regions very, very strongly. Therefore, I would presume that the India Cements, Orient Cements, etc., would all be in focus. I mean, actually, the entire cement pack could well be in focus, ACC being the starting point, really. So do watch out for the cement stocks and ACC in particular. BEML. Uh, Now, depends on how you view this, but I think the market will view this positively, that the Defense Ministry signed contracts with BEML for T90 tanks, and therefore this stock too could react positively. I'm going out on a limb and saying that Vodafone Idea could react positively. I think it should react positively, as the statements that come in from the Supreme Court suggest that the Supreme Court is willing to hear the issue of granting time for repayment. I think it was a foregone conclusion that they will not be able to renegotiate the dues that they had to pay, the amounts that they have to pay, self-assessment or otherwise. So that was gone. But I think the closing statement seemed to suggest that the Supreme Court is willing to hear the issue of the time of repayment. And even though the odds are still stacked up against Vodafone Idea, because yesterday the comments during the close of session were so harsh, I think the market would want to take these as positively. I won't be surprised if Vodafone has a bit of a positive reaction today in the session. Last but not the least, stocks in focus, IFL Securities and Indian Hotels. Now, in both of these, the talk is that in one of these, the talk is that a large investor went out and sold the stake yesterday, and therefore the stock was down. Is IFL Securities. In the other one, which is Indian Hotels, the talk is that that same large investor purchased stake meaningfully. So it remains to be seen if IFL Securities continues to see some downside today, and whether Indian Hotels sees some upside today. So do watch out for all of these stocks in the session. I'll just end with a small observation. Remember, while this whole conversation is around the vaccine, AstraZeneca ended fell off from the record highs in trade yesterday. It was actually the Nasdaq and the tech-heavy stocks which led the markets higher. So I don't quite know if pharma would be the sector that is in focus. I think it should be banks. I think it will be cement. And to an extent, IT might continue momentum. So those are the pockets. Don't forget Reliance. The GDRs, ADRs of all of these were very, very active. That remains to be seen. We might well have a trending day today, and a day that could actually see much higher levels than what the SGX Nifty currently suggests. But let's wait and watch. The stack is positive. Let's see if we indeed perform. Have a profitable trading day today.